Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday evening, November 2nd, and we have entered the month of, for the Great Lakes area, this is the stormiest month of the year. This is a month where storms intensify rapidly, and that's because of the Great Lakes. We have pretty strong storm systems that move across the area, similar to what we see in March. I think in March, the storms are stronger, but when the Great Lakes, the effects that the Great Lakes have on storms, that doesn't happen in March. The Great Lakes, the water temperatures are warm, the air rises, and it really intensifies those storms. So we've had some powerhouse storms here in the Chicago area for the month of November. If you look on the weather map, actually, you will see this, the weather map is reflective of this. We don't see any strong storms in the United States, but we do in the ocean area. We just witnessed something unbelievable to me. A nor'easter last week. Nor'easter gets its energy from contrast in temperatures. That thing moved off to the Atlantic Ocean, and it became a named subtropical storm. A named subtropical storm. I appreciate the excitement in the crowd this evening very, very much, and we'll be able to continue on with that. But not only that, it also moved into the tropics. So today it's a tropical storm. It's a regular tropical storm, the type of thing that comes off of Africa. Nobody would think, and no one would have a havamina in a billion years that this thing came from a nor'easter. We've seen the opposite. We've seen these tropical storms. They move on to the coast over here in the country, and then they develop into a nor'easter. They run into a front. They pull away from the warm waters, and the thing starts to fall apart. Then it runs into a front, and it kind of reorganizes. It turns into a nor'easter. That we've seen before. I've never seen this. I don't know. Why haven't I seen this before? Anyways, here's the big kasha. The really big question is, as of 2002, apparently, as of 2002, we started to name subtropical storms. It's an official thing. We started to name these subtropical storms. I assume the criteria for a subtropical storm is the same thing for a tropical storm. I think it's when the storm reaches maximum sustained winds of 40 miles per hour, it gets its name. That's what I believe. So whatever it does in the tropics, that's what it does in the north of the tropics, in subtropical areas. What's phenomenal about this storm, before we get to my question, is that this storm, it's not even over such warm waters, and it's getting its energy from the water. It's a tropical system, so it's really interesting stuff. But this is something that probably is a November deal. This is a special November deal because a lot of things are relative. That's the truth. The rising air is really relative. Even 0 degree air, I think it will start rising as if it's warm air if it's 30 below zero all around it. So you have to deal with that. Yeah, the waters are cooler. They're not really so warm, but it could very well be that the air is rising at a rapid pace. Apparently it is, because this thing has developed initially into a subtropical storm, now into a tropical storm. The other thing that's unique over here is that it's not hitting land. This thing wouldn't be making any headlines at all, except for the fact that it is. It wouldn't be making any headlines because it's not hitting any area. And, for those storm lovers, for those people who hate the storm lovers because they think maybe that the storm lovers don't care about humanity because people get hurt and stuff. Well, this is the one time the storm lovers get to express themselves like never before, because this is like never before, because this is not hitting any land, and show everyone that it's lishma. We love storms because of the storms, not because anyone gets hurt. That's very, very sad that people get hurt. So what do we have to say about these storms? What do we have to say? not, oh man, how come I'm not getting any? This crowd is a really funny crowd we have over here. 4 more years of storms. 4 more years of storms. That's what the crowd's saying. We want to hear more and more and more. In a certain way, we want it to be on land because once it's on land, we get to see it with our own eyes. We get to see what's going on. If it's not on land, they could say anything. People could say anything, and we're forced to believe it. So we have that storm out in the tropics. The big kasha is, what about these North Pacific bombs? And they're bombs in many ways. First of all, the system is powerful. It's intense. It's the barometric pressure is 29.0 or less. This subtropical storm, the barometric pressure was 29.2. It was weaker. But not only that, this storm's intensify at such a rapid pace, it qualifies for the official definition of bombogenesis. Bombogenesis? That's what it is. And are they getting names? I've never heard of them getting names. Maybe they are. I've never heard of it. I don't know. Just because I haven't heard of it doesn't mean much, although you would think after reading all these articles that that's a big thing they forgot to put in. If these storms are getting named, I've read so much stuff about those storms. If they're getting named and everyone just forgot to add that point, that's quite a coincidence. Sure, it's possible. Anyways, those are the storms that are, they head off to the Northwest Pacific. Either it's them themselves that are going to the Northwest Pacific, or it's the spin that they produce that's spinning around. These impulses come off of them and send them to the Northwest Pacific. At least 3 are headed there this week. At least 3. Probably another parade next week, without a doubt. Okay, so they're getting their parade of storms. That's wonderful for them because they were under a drought. And we have in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, powerhouse stuff is going on. So if you're a boater, you should pay attention to the situation over there. If you're a boater, that storm system is moving northeast into cooler waters. One would think that it should weaken, but again, the whole thing developed in cooler waters. So, but one would think that it should weaken as it moves into cooler waters. We have here in the United States, what we have is an Arctic cold front. Now, I want to be careful about the terminology here. There's 3 different types of fronts that could affect us. We have the polar front, the Pacific front, and the Arctic front. And there's different types of Arctic fronts. It's been very hard for me to figure out whether this is an Arctic front or a mere Canadian front. We have top experts, reliable experts. The Washington Post is way up there. And they are calling this an Arctic front. The St. Louis National Weather Service, the forecaster, said straight out, the air mass behind this front is coming from not the North Pole, that would be a polar front, but it's coming from close to the North Pole. It's coming from northern Canada, just north of the Arctic Circle. I'm throwing those words in, just north of the Arctic Circle, and I think that that's an Arctic front. That's an Arctic front, okay? People are in Texas, they're calling it an Arctic front. Others are just calling it a Canadian front. Now, the 3 major ingredients you need for a major winter storm of 6 inches or more of snow is a solid Arctic air mass, deep low pressure, and copious amounts of Gulf moisture. We're going to have that starting tonight as a storm system develops over Texas. And that storm system is going to continue and be in that area for the next several days as it moves to the East Coast. So we're going to have heavy rains, 2 to 3 inches of rain, perhaps even more, areas of thunderstorms, really warm temperatures to the southeast of the system. Usually, the heaviest snow falls in the northeast part of the system. The only thing is that in this situation, since it is early November, the air is not going to be quite cold enough for snow in the northeast part of the system. We're going to have to get to the back side of the system before the precipitation is actually cold enough for snow. So any snow that does fall is likely going to be falling in the northwest part of the system. That greatly reduces any snow accumulation that there would be if there's any snow accumulation. I would imagine a place like Amarillo, Texas, in the Texas Panhandle. That city is known for total wildness, just up and down Vinahafachu. That's the type of city I would think we're going to have a few snowflakes from at least. We saw yesterday a low pressure system, as weak as it was, it existed. It produced 5.8 inches of snow 100 miles away from Lincoln, Nebraska, and that was around 12 o'clock yesterday. So we also had places in Wyoming that saw several inches of snow. But Nebraska, I think actually North Platte, Alaska, had the 5.8 inches. North Platte, Alaska. That city is a city. Anyone who's interested in wild weather, they must put that city into their app. I remember that city was doing wild stuff all the way back in spring. That city in Amarillo, Texas. These are cities that you want to have in your weather app to just, if you want to increase your heart rate and get your happiness and get your day going without a cup of coffee. Those are the cities that you need to put in. We have again, this is the storm system seems to be taking a track which will go along the Gulf Coast and out into the Atlantic Ocean. If it does so, there is limited snow that it's going to be producing. There might be some snow in the Appalachian. Most of this is going to be rain. If this storm should all of a sudden decide to move north, then we might be talking about more snow on the eastern seaboard, but that's not what the current forecast is. Nevertheless, 6 or 7 inches of snow is what usually falls in this type of a situation for places around the Buffalo, New York. Not Buffalo itself probably, but areas around there. Syracuse, whatever it is, Syracuse, the place that gets an enormous amount of snow in New York. About 6 to 7 inches, and places in Michigan might also be getting between 6 and 7 inches of lake effect snow. This stuff turns on the lake effect snow machine like crazy. The Lake Michigan water temperatures and the Great Lakes water temperatures are much warmer than usual. So we're going to see precipitation heavier than usual. Some areas, however, the water's so warm, the precipitation might be falling as rain. So those are some complexities that the National Weather Services over there are trying to figure out. In Chicago here, we might be getting some a flake here and there or a drizzle here and there popping up from the what's that? It might be popping up from the south. We might get something like that, but generally dry. We also, however, do have there's some type of snow going on. Maybe it's just the lake effect snow. I think there's something going on further north of us. But generally speaking, places like in southern Minnesota are going to remain dry for this week. It's just going to be cold. The big story this past week has been, are we going to be following the European computer model, which is forecasting the colder temperatures, or the GFS model forecasting the warmer temperatures? And there are reasons why it's forecasting the colder temperatures. The reasons are well understood by the meteorologists. So those temperatures are a reflection of how strong the ridge is going to be in northwest Canada, and also whether the low pressure trough is going to have a positive tilt or not. If it does have a positive tilt, it's going to allow the cold air to come down further south and west than it otherwise would. Now, the forecaster in St. Louis, he said like this: since the high pressure system is originating close to the North Pole, it makes sense to him that we should go ahead with the European computer models. Not only that, he said eventually the GFS models will say exactly what the European computer models are saying, and that's what happened. And we're going according to the European computer models, and as a result, although temperatures are a little bit too warm for the traditional Arctic front, which would have highs in the 30s, there are places here, as we pointed out, that did see a significant snowfall, and for them, high temperatures are in the 30s. The growing season is coming to an end. I thought it ended a while ago, but it didn't. In St. Louis, the growing season continues, but it seems like this week, the National Weather Service says, as we go through a couple of days where there's freeze warnings, the crops are going to freeze, the growing season will be coming to an end. And Chicago, I do not know if we have reached that level yet. Now, here is the good news, however, for those that like the warm weather. The good news is that, so there might be another storm this weekend. I'm not sure what's going on with that. And there might be, if there is a storm, there might be some colder air that comes in behind it, maybe for early next week. But after that, long-term weather forecasts show a return to September weather. And the reason I call this September weather is because we never had October weather this year. There never was October weather. There was just, we had 2 Septembers. So we temporarily went into, I don't know what we're in right now. We're an Arctic cold front in November should be producing highs in the 30s. So I would say this is an Arctic cold front of October or something. And we're going to go back into September. For St. Louis, Missouri, we're just going to, we haven't had any drum rolls. What are the temperatures, do you think? What are they going to be like next week? What are the forecasts for next week in St. Louis, Missouri? And realize they're usually 5 degrees too low. So what are they going to be? What do you think? Forecast highs mid-60s by the middle part of next week. Probably some days will hit the low 70s without a doubt. I would want to know what do people feel about the fact that in Amarillo, Texas, there might be a flake or two, but they probably won't be getting that 6-inch snowfall that Nebraska gets. Aww. Yeah, I know that's a little bit sad. I don't know what the hottest temperature was in the U.S. yesterday or the coldest temperature. That's something that I just don't know. And do we have anything that's... We do have some frost advisories in effect for Baltimore. Freeze warnings, I think, are in effect for the Chicago area. This is something that I almost forgot to put in. There's a powerhouse storm. It's a North Pacific storm. Just listen to this. It's in the Gulf of Alaska. 28 feet of snow is about to fall. It is falling. It's in the mountains by Anchorage, Alaska. They said, so some people said, they're overestimating that. It's not going to be 28 feet. But then someone else said, the National Weather Service said, you know what? We don't even have a snow gauge that's big enough, that's tall enough to measure the 28 feet, so no one's going to know the difference anyways. Many of the articles, many forecasters are forecasting over 10 feet of snow. Some say about 28 feet, but there is no way to measure it. These are places that at this point you can only get there by helicopter. These are in Anchorage, Alaska. There's major snow going on over there. There's major rain going on over there. More than 10 inches of rain has fallen in this. This is major, big-time stuff that's going on. This is a record. There's unprecedented stuff taking place there. I do not know the exact parts that are unprecedented, but there's one thing that I do know. This is the furthest north the following has ever happened. To have 8 inches of rain over 2 consecutive days, 8 inches or more in Anchorage, Alaska, that's the farthest north that has ever happened. So that is at least one thing that's unprecedented. The 28 feet. If that's not unprecedented, then I don't know. Like, then who knows? How does anybody know whether this stuff has happened? We have records to 1870, In Alaska, I don't even know what the records are. So these are things that are just amazing. That's also a November system because that's over the ocean. We're saying that the cloud, the Isod by November, it's that actually the land storms would actually be stronger in March. You have brutal Arctic air in March. You have hot tropical air all colliding together. In November, it's not quite that intense. But in November, you have the warm water temperatures. So these mediocre storm systems go over the warm water and they just explode. And that's what we've seen happening. That's what I believe is happening. That's what we've seen happening. And with that, should we bring this to an end over here? We're going to have we have another punch of cold air coming in. It's either tonight or tomorrow. So this is a double punch of cold air. The second one is colder than the first. And then after that, temperatures should moderate, should start to warm, certainly after Thursday onward. And probably by the middle part of next week, we're going to really see more milder temperatures, at least the 50s for here in Chicago, but 60s in St. Louis, maybe even warmer than that. I wish everyone a great day. I want him a wonderful night, and there's probably stuff that I did not cover, and I could explain details better with the Gulf Coast storm if I really wanted to, and how it's going to be a long duration event. That the 2 to 3 inches is happening not because of torrential downpours at the moment. It's just a long duration event. The system is going to take its time getting out. And the last time we had this, the rain just kept falling. It was unbelievable amounts. So I know they say 2 or 3 inches or more, 3+ inches. In any case, I wish everybody a wonderful night. I hope I'm going to improve this podcast here, and stay safe. One more thing I want to mention is that there's a shortage of snow plowers in this country. There's people who are not willing to plow the streets anymore. So some states have an extreme shortage. Illinois does not have an extreme shortage. It only has a moderate shortage. So if any of you are interested in plowing the streets, you can go ahead and apply for that job. I want to throw in one more thing, that I was in a place in Switzerland, in the Swiss Alps, where it was illegal. It was illegal to plow the streets to more than 1 inch, meaning there always had to be 1 inch of packed snow on the ground. You're supposed to plow the streets. If there's 10 inches of snow, plow the streets. There should be 1 inch of snow on the ground. But if you plow that inch, it's illegal, and the police can give you a ticket. I don't really know if the police would give you a ticket, but I've seen people get tickets for very strange stuff. But this city, there's a rule. You can't plow the streets less than 1 inch. I love that rule. I think people could drive on packed snow. The place is beautiful. And maybe if you are one of those snow plowers, maybe you'll do well with such a rule. Maybe a lot of people, we might have some people that are angry at such a rule. I don't know. Are there people who are angry at such a rule? They could be angry, but what about the rest of the crowd here? Yeah, that's what I thought. Everyone have a wonderful night. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for listening.